Let's go to this now. Police are searching for the suspects who gunned down Eldorado Park activist Ayob Mungalee near his home last night at around 8 p.m. Mungalee was reportedly next to his house when the suspects opened fire, killing him on the scene. Police are appealing for any information that can help the investigation to be reported to the nearest police station or Crime Stop. And he was known for his activism in Eldorado Park and was committed to cleaning up the community. And of course, this is a man that we also saw speaking quite prominently during a broadcast here on Full View, which was looking at drugs on the streets and how police can get involved. Let's take a look during that time what he had to say.
On the 16th of June last year, they kidnapped a girl from Eldorado Park, Andy Crowder, who's been manufacturing tip in Canada for the last 8 years. And the police come with his wife and served me with a protection order 2 weeks ago.
Because they want to open up.
And she comes in a GP car, escorted by police.
Yes.
She didn't know where I stayed, so they showed her where I stayed. A week later, 20 policemen came and raided my house looking for guns. You know what? Their drug dealers' time are over.
Let's stay with the story further now. We speak to Eldorado Park activist Dereleen James, Gauteng Community Police Forum Board Chair TJ Masilela, and Gun Free South Africa spokesperson Adele Kirsten. Thank you so much to you all for your time. Dereleen, let me start with you. This is a man you would have walked the streets of Eldorado Park with. You always were there with him, and even in that clip, one was even thinking about it last night, just how difficult it might be for you, because he did know they were looking for him.
Yes, the community is still in shock. As activists, we mourn the death of. We believe, that no one deserves to die in the manner that he has died. Although we didn't work together in the same we weren't on the same team, but I think the message was clear. We were advocating against social ills in our community and the wrong that was happening here. And he was quite vocal. He was in the forefront of fighting substance abuse. I was reading some of the tweets and some of the messages on social media early on from the community, members saying that he helped us, members saying that he stood by us. And yes, he was a voice for the community. So we are quite saddened by the loss. And that's where we're at. I am speechless today because I'm sure we have sung this chorus on television, on radio for many months now, highlighting what is happening in Eldorado Park daily. It is not just Ayob that was gunned down last night. Last week, Thursday, we had a murder. Over the weekend, we also had someone that was stabbed. So the gun violence, the killings just continues in this community.
Sure. And that is quite difficult to hear, Dereleen, because it's such a ticking time bomb. Mr. TJ Masilela, let me bring you in here. Did it really have to get to this point? I mean, Dereleen talks about a murder just last week, and we keep on seeing this, and the community of Eldorado Park, being but one, has been crying for quite a lot of help in this regard.
No, thank you very much. I think one pays a tribute to Ayob. I actually met him on the 11th of January when we did this back to school campaign in Eldorado Park, Silver Oaks High School. A very dedicated member in fighting crime. We just living in a very, very, very violent society. The question you're asking says, should it have been come to this level? Of course not. There are too many guns on the streets, illegal firearms. Some of the firearms, we know where they're coming from. I mean, if you listen the story in Devon where the criminals came and robbed the police station and actually took firearms. But also, if you have to see how easy it is to get a gun in our society today, it's so simple. It's like buying bread, basically. We have a problem. All Operation Ukai Mulao that I have attended and that I didn't attend it, guns, guaranteed you would find a gun or two or three.
And
so It's a problem. It's a big problem. And some of these guns are machines that we have never seen. Not South African guns, coming outside our borders. They find their space here. So we have a problem with the influx of guns into our society.
And Adele, that's the nub of the problem, this access to guns. It really is something that, it looks like the fight is not being won on that front.
Bongi, you're right. It's the availability. It's the easy access to the weapons that's the issue. And we have proven strategies that have worked both in this country and elsewhere in the world. And the key intervention is that you have to reduce the circulation of these weapons in our society. You have to remove them. The guns that are being used in crime, the kinds of mass killings we've seen in the last couple of weeks, those guns continue to circulate because the cops don't have a clear strategy, an intelligence-driven strategy, which says we're going to go after the guns. The guns have to be removed. They have to be analyzed to determine where they're coming from, and then they have to be destroyed because weapons are moving. All weapons, all guns were once legal. They start off in the legal market, and then they leak from the legal market, which is either from the state or from civilians, into the illicit market. And in South Africa in 2000, after the introduction of our gun law, we reduced our gun deaths by almost 50%. We are back up to 30 people being shot and killed every single day in this country. And it's an epidemic. It can be stopped. It has to be stopped. And our government, and in particular the police, have to play an absolutely central role in this, as do communities. But right now, the pressure is only coming up from the bottom. Communities like Eldorado Park. That's critical to put pressure on government, but government has to come to the table, and at the moment they're not.
And, Dereleen, one thinks about Eldorado Park, you think about, Beja, where we saw people being killed, mass murders there. We see, you think about Khayelitsha, you think about various areas, you think about Mr. Ayob, you think about, Kenan Forbes, and all of those are really murders that have shocked us. And these are some of the reported ones. There are so many that go unreported. As an activist on the ground, what will it take to rid our streets of these guns, and is there a will from those who are in charge to do this?
There's absolutely. The fact that we've been out protesting, the fact that we've been speaking out for the longest time ever, and I'm always going to go right back to 2013 where we highlighted what was happening in our community, where we called on the highest office in this country. The fact that our voices reached that office, and to date, almost 10 years later, our activists in our community is being gunned down, tells you about the lack of will, the lack of ability to serve and protect the residents, not only in Eldorado Park, but in this country. The fact that we speak, and I listen to Adele and I listen to TJ, and we're all singing the same song. We speak about the many drugs on the street. We speak about drug control. Gun control, we speak about the regulations. The problem is here. We've identified the problem. We keep identifying the problem year in and out. I'm asking to date, what is the operational plan to address this problem? Can we have that presented to us as activists? Can we say that in Eldorado Park, we have identified one area in particular where all these killings are happening? It's a hot spot. It's not even happening in the entire Eldorado Park. It's one area. Can we have a strategy for this one area? It is obvious, even with the killing of AKA, the fact that these criminals have become so brazen, so confident that they no longer even do these crimes behind closed doors. It's out in the open. They're probably aware that there's footage, that there's cameras, but people just continue doing this because they know that, this government that is currently ruling this country does not have the will, not the ability, nothing to actually address crime. So it just continues to spiral. Tomorrow I'll be having an interview on SABC again, talking about someone who was gunned down in Eldorado Park or somewhere in our country. We continue to highlight problems, but we don't put pressure and say, where is the plan for communities such as Eldorado Park.
And I'll get to the plan with you, Adele, in just a moment. But TJ, the killing of Mr. Ayob, one of the things that it's going to do, I mean, this is someone who was a whistleblower coming forward, talking about the difficulties that they were experiencing on the ground. This is further likely to deter more community members from speaking out against the ills that they're seeing in their communities.
The fear, I think, that's what the criminals are instilling into our communities. But we have a responsibility of not to fear. I think Dereleen has mentioned that we will have another interview and we will talk about this. But let me put to you this. Dereleen is talking about the plan. There's a community policing strategy launched in 2018 by the then National Commissioner Story. Now, I've said this so many times, and I will still continue to say this. If we can apply just the 6 pillars of that strategy in those areas that we know that they are hotspots, half of the crime that we are seeing, we should be able to do that. But let's make it difficult also to obtain guns. It's so difficult to get a licensed firearm, but it's so easy to get illegal firearm. So easy. Now, if we're serious about fighting this crime or the social ills of our communities, especially the violent crime and the trio crimes, let's apply. On paper, we have so many of these strategies, we have so many of these plans. The will of the action is actually the problem that we have. So if we can be able to address that, and one would like to believe that with the Gauteng 6,000 recruits that have been done by the Gauteng government, hopefully we will see some difference, because they'll be what-based, they'll be armed, they'll be given all the necessary support. Maybe we'll see some difference in this, but we have to get the law enforcement agencies, but with our people, obviously, informers network, community intelligence, and recruit correctly. I think sometimes we're just recruiting wrong. Yeah. People didn't pass whatever they want, they end up in the space of law enforcement. That's another problem that we can do.
But TJ, how much of this then that we're also seeing, as you talk about this, community police strategy by the former National Police Commissioner, how much of this lack of implementation of that plan is also as a result of some of the tensions that we would then see play out in the top structures of SABC?
Oh, of course, definitely. I mean, if you look at the one of the good things that have come out of that is obviously the 10,000 recruitments that you see. Fair enough. But there's other 6 pillars. There's so many of this in the strategy that if you're serious about fighting crime, you have to start applying that. There's technology in there. There's drone, there's cameras, there's e-panics and so forth. So there's so much in that space, in that community policing strategy. And you have willing partners. I must tell you that up front. We have willing partners who wants to see this actually implemented. Obviously, you have to cost it, and obviously you have to start in the areas of concern, the hotspots, but you need to do something to be seen that you are actually willing to fight crime. And I hope that the Gauteng government, with the 6,000 recruits that we have seen going for training, will come and close that space.
Yeah.
But also they're not taking the work of your original cultured police officer that's supposed to be doing that, or law enforcement. Communities also. Dereleen is one of the activities. But if we can have another 1 million of the same kind, we will make some difference. People know, we know somehow we know who has done what, but we are just not cooperating because of fear, maybe of the corrupt officers, or maybe because of this thing coming back to us, or we just lazy. It hasn't happened to you.
All right.
Then you don't worry.
Adele, let me bring you in on that very last point by TJ. How much of what we're seeing when it comes to access to guns can be attributed to the fact that those that are tasked with protecting these guns, protecting the communities, they themselves make these guns available to the criminals?
The guns come from 3 sources in this country. 24 guns are lost and stolen from civilians every day. That includes private security. 2 to 3 guns move from cops and from state, things like SABC 13 stores. And then we have, so that's the main source, is moving from the legal to the illegal market. Then we have fraud and corruption all along the firearms control management chain. And then there's some cross-border trade. So you need to understand where's the main problem. The main problem is you have to go upstream, you have to stop the supply, you have to turn off the tap. I think we have 3 very clear recommendations from Gun Free about stuff that's worked, and that's worked not just in this country but elsewhere. SABC have to set up a specialized firearms unit whose task it is to lead intelligence-driven operations that recover guns, do the analysis, and destroy them. Secondly, we have a bill sitting in the minister's office that was sent out for public comment in June 2021, which has significant strengthening of the gun law. It's sitting on the table. It hasn't come to Parliament. It needs to come to Parliament in order that communities like Eldorado Park can talk to that gun law and say, these are the changes we want. So that's the third thing. The voices of people on the ground, the voices of people that are most affected by gun violence, they need to be foregrounded. That element needs to come in. Those are 3 things that are doable. We can do them straight away. We don't need to go back and revisit the 6 pillars. And all of this requires partnership, etc. But we can move on this. It's urgent. And our government has the tools, it has the capacity, it has the resources to do this. And people in communities will work with government in doing this. But it's, what is it going to take to get our government to act, to move decisively? We have 2 murders that happened on Friday night that are well-known people. We know them, their families are known, we know their stories. 28 other people are shot and killed every single day. We don't know their stories. They're invisible.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you the last word in about 20 seconds, Dereleen. You're an activist, you're on the ground. This is happening. Are you not fearing for your life?
We actually, just from the entire day, we've been sitting at my fellow activist Cheryl Pillai's house, the lot of us, and I think everyone's just numb. We're not sure what this means. We're not trying to, we've contacted the provincial commissioner, we've contacted the Johannesburg commissioner, and we said to them, we need to meet with them ASAP. I'm not sure if they're going to take us seriously and actually meet with us, or do they want to see more blood? But right now, we just need to feel a sense of safety in our community and know where we stand in terms of the protection for activists and this entire community. Like I've said, I cannot believe that to date we are still asking, what is the plan for this community, Eldorado Park? We speak very broadly about what we can do, but if we cannot get a grip in a small area where it's rampant, where it's on the increase, how are we going to serve the rest of South Africa?
A point to end there, to ponder. Thank you so much to you all for your time. And Dereleen, one really hopes that it's not yet another conversation of this nature, as you say, that we then have without, necessarily the result being seen on the ground. But let me thank you all for your time. We do appreciate it. That was Eldorado Park activist Dereleen James, Gauteng Community Policing Forum Board Chair TJ Masilela, and Gun Free South Africa spokesperson Adele Kirsten.